broke through six figures my first year in mortgage in 99. And you realize very quickly there's a lot of money to be made in this business if you learn how to think differently. And when I think of like one of the icons in this industry of thinking differently, I think of you. Hey guys, Wally Olivieri. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. I learned over time a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own is unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show. I am super excited. What I'm really excited about is our guest today, Michelle Castle. So she doesn't know this about me, but I remember we met at a breakfast meeting once, and I was just so like admiring her business I've always known she did massive production, but I don't know if you remember this or not. It was some networking breakfast group. I think it was like at Glen Eagles. And I don't remember who set it all up, but Michelle walks in, big personality, and I just like started doing a little bit of production, and she's always done a massive amount of production, and walked in, and she was just the most friendliest person possible, and just like brought it down. So I'm super happy to have Michelle on the podcast today, which is like really, really exciting. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. That was just a breakfast setup between Lynn Reed, yourself, and we were just what I've always loved, and I remember about this. I don't remember my production being more than yours. I just remember sitting down and collaborating, and I think that that's always what's been really cool is that we've never seen each other as competitors. We've just seen each other as we're in the same line of work, helping people and sharing ideas. So I'm honored that you asked me to be here. So thank you.
Well, I just think it's amazing when it's funny, the more production that I see top producers do, the more they think of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
The less production that I see most people do, the more they think of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how us high producers will always think of abundance and will always give and share. And yeah, you want that manual? Sure. You want that? You want my notes from the last seminar? Sure. And we're so confident in our own abilities that we're not worried about being inferior to someone else by them copying us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always felt that way, but I mean, even think about from the times that I worked at car dealerships. I was just as fascinated with the other makes and models as I was the cars that I was selling because, we're not always for everybody. The products that we sell aren't always for everybody, but you need to be able to be a resource and a connection. And it's the same thing in the mortgage space.
Well, before we get into mortgage and your cool brand, let's talk cars for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold cars right out of high school. I was 18 years old for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny story why I got into mortgage. Do you remember a loan officer named Kurt Gonzalez?
Mm-mm.
So he was back at CTX Mortgage back in 1999. He was this big top producing guy. And I was selling Jeeps at Huff Hines in Plano.
Uh-huh.
And literally it was like the summer after high school. And he rolls up with like a Mazda Miata. He had his shirt off. He had his flip-flops on, perfect tan, golf clubs in the car with him in the Miata, convertible top down. And I'm like, what do you do? And he goes, man, I'm a loan officer, make 10, 15 grand a month. And I work maybe, a couple hours a day. And he's like this, like Mr. Chill guy.
Yeah.
And, yeah, now he's with Highlands Residential, but it's funny. I'm like, whatever you do, I'll drop what I'm doing here in car sales. And I think back then I was making like 50, 60 grand for an 18-year-old kid. That was a lot of money.
It
But,
was.
but then I'm like, I want to become your assistant, and he wouldn't hire me. So I went and started working at this chop shop subprime lender called Alpha Mortgage USA as a loan officer assistant back in 1999. So what was your transition in car sales, and how did you get to mortgage after that?
So my interest, my story isn't so glamorous. I grew up. So my dad is my dad's second generation car guy.
Okay.
And so he owned car dealerships around Texas, and a couple of them in the North Texas area. And so I was living in Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was my first marriage. It wasn't going so well. He was really pretty much a jerk. And so while he was out to sea at one time, I was just like, okay, I've had it. I'm moving back home. So my dad at the time was living in Sherman, Texas. And so I came and moved back home with my parents with a baby that was 3 years old. So I ended up going into, I just worked at admin in the HR department. And then, when it was all over, my dad had hopes and dreams, and I had hopes and dreams that I would be manage the car dealerships one day. So I was in coaching programs.
Wow.
Even back then, they had coaching programs for young dealers. And I was in the coaching programs, and I was on the path to, taking over one of my dad's dealerships. And at that, by that time, I had worked in the service department. I can listen to your car and kind of diagnose it. It's a little bit harder now because cars are different, but but I'd been around the cars, worked in the service department. I used to work in leasing and finance, and then I was used car sales manager and new car sales manager. However, my dad and I got into a big tiff. At that time, I was still, I was hot-headed, and he was still trying to control me, and I wasn't very controllable at the time. He never did figure out. Now he's learned that he can't control me. Anyway, we got into a big tiff, and he fired me, and I needed a job. So I ended up in the mortgage space. And a lot of that was because at that time I was like, my favorite part about the car dealerships was the finance end of it. So what can I find that is close enough to what I've been doing? And I went and I talked to a lady named BJ Kirkpatrick. And she was referred to me by a friend. And it turned into a job interview, and she hired me on the spot. And still to this day, we work together. And that was in 96.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I fell in love with mortgage and just enjoyed it.
So in 96, what was the interest rates in 96?
I remember locking in interest rates. 8.875 was, that high 8 was normal, but there were some that we locked in at 9.25.
Yeah.
I still, I've always reflected back to that time, whenever I'm seeing the low rates that I've experienced for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
So,
so I came across my journal the other day, and I'll shoot you a text of this picture, but it was a journal how I taught myself mortgage back in 99. And it was the script. One of the scripts I had in there was, because of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, rates have dropped from 9% down to 8.125, the biggest mortgage drop interest rates. And basically what I would do is I would door knock apartments for the sake of finding 80-20 first-time home buyers. Hey, come do a mortgage with me. What I'll be able to do is I'll be able to structure mortgage less than what you're paying for rent and And you get buyers that way. But because of that refi boom, rates going from the 9s down to 8s, I started door knocking houses and stuffing flyers in people's doors. It wasn't the most efficient. It wasn't necessarily also the most effective. But I think what I learned very quickly, I broke through 6 figures my first year in mortgage in 99. And you realize very quickly there's a lot of money to be made in this business if you learn how to think differently. And when I think of like one of the icons in this industry of thinking differently, I think of you. It's kind of like what you said about your dad. And what I love so much about your personality, and what I want to get into, like your brand and your color and just the funness of you,
Mhm,
you're not the type that tries to be anybody's anything. You're
mhm,
100% just being you.
mhm.
So what I love for you to kind of share is like, how'd you become you, and how have you protected you from all the noise of everything else trying to change you in this industry?
Well, I BJ taught me a lot about the mortgage industry, but she also taught me a lot about marketing. Now, marketing is something I think that when I look back, I always try to understand who am I speaking to?
Okay.
And what is it that I have that would benefit them, knowing that I'm not for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So, and being okay with that. Um, but I don't look at what others do and try to copy what they're doing. What I try to do is pay attention to who's doing what and what of that I mean, where is the lesson in this and how can I reframe that to be more true to who I am and say it the way that would feel natural for me? Because I do believe that authenticity is so
Yeah.
important because people can tell when you're speaking from the heart and when you're sharing information that you really truly believe in versus just regurgitating something that you read or saw somewhere else. And I
Yeah.
think that is really important to understand, what about this do I truly believe in and where do I feel like there is an opportunity and how can I explain that opportunity to the end user? Does that make sense?
It, well, clearly it makes dollars, doesn't make sense.
Huh?
Um, but yes, it does make sense. And I think that's one of the things I've admired about you is you clearly you can take something that's very difficult,
Mm,
rebuild it into your head, and from there bring it to life in your way.
mhm.
So, for the viewers out there that are in the business or starting in the business or that would love to learn that trait, how do you teach that to them?
Mm. A lot of introspect. I really think that, and that's one thing that I have been really focusing on when I'm working with real estate agents and with other mortgage loan officers. Spending a lot of time with yourself. For me, and everybody has a certain time of the day when they really can take that pause moment if they choose to do so.
Okay.
It's a little bit different for me because my kids are grown. So I don't have the chaos and the noise, and I also have a very supportive husband. But if I didn't have that, then it's like really where do I find this the quiet space to really think through who am I? What values do I have? And how do I want to how do I align what it is that I'm trying to do in my message in a way that's authentic? So, for example, right now, I believe that the panic with the realtors right now is that I've had this house on the market for a while. It's hardly getting any showings, and they're panicked. I mean, I received I don't know how I hadn't even counted the text messages and the Facebook messages that I've read today from real estate agents because I threw out there the fact that buyers right now are scared. They're worried about the cost of everything. I mean, I saw a stat where household expenses have gone up $700 per household. I haven't checked the stat. It's a lot of money, whatever it is, even if it's half that, especially in the
Yeah.
market that I'm in. And so, what information can we provide to sellers to get them to understand what the buyer's pains are? Is it price reduction? Maybe, but does that really help a buyer? Or are there some other ways that we can assist the buyer? But then it's all about the messaging. How do we get the message out to the buyers that, hey, I'm willing to help you buy my home? And here are some of
Yeah.
the options that I have available to help you buy my home. Back to your question, how you're going to deliver that information and the way you frame that to someone has to be unique to you and your personality. And it has to align with your values, right? So for me, I'm a big educator. So my thoughts are I really need to educate them on the benefit of this versus that. And how do I educate? If a big value system of mine is education, then how do I provide education around this whole talking point?
Yeah, and I think what's beautiful about that is you're able to articulate that so well. So you see the needs and you see the fears that these borrowers are going through and these realtors are going through. And like for example, I was on a so my realtors would do open houses on the weekends,
Mhm,
and they give me the list of the list of sign-ins
mhm,
that they received from those. Get on the phone, and my team or I get on the phone, and we'll call those lists of sign-ons and just say, "Hey, I'm the preferred lender at 123 Apple Street that
mhm,
that you came by.
mhm,
However, the seller is extremely motivated, and the
mhm,
seller wants to sell you the house. Instead of the seller dropping the price of the house, are you aware that the seller is helping you discount your interest rate
mhm,
from the normal 8% of the marketplace, not to 7, not to 6, but down to 5% because they're offering a 3-2-1 buy down?"
mhm,
It just sparks that conversation, and I'm saying the same thing that
mhm,
anybody else would say about a buy down,
mhm,
but the way I'm structuring it, sellers motivated, they can
mhm,
either drop the price or
mhm,
they can keep the price the same and drop your monthly payment
mhm,
by $700-800 a month. Which
mhm,
one would you prefer?
mhm.
Right?
Right. Or if your pain point is you just don't have the funds, you can afford the payment, you're okay with that, but you don't have the money that's required up front. We have the flexibility to do that too. But then my thought is, okay, so if education is important to me and it really is a value, I want people to fully understand what decisions they're making and not just throw options out there and say pick one, two, or three and not
Yeah.
explain. So then it's like, how do I really explain to them so that I can so they have the confidence. There's calm that comes with confidence, right? And I want them to buy and make decisions with confidence, and I can do that through education. So is it recording a video and doing a screen share and like pointing out and then running over? I'm working on creating a TCA that shows them those options and then shows them the pros and cons and help them through confidence, or use education to give them confidence so they can calmly make a decision.
Yeah. And I
And
think it's brilliant. But I mean, I think one thing I've seen from afar is that your leadership is also not only just for your borrowers, but also for your referral partners.
mm-hmm.
So, have you been able to kind of lead your referral partners through the calm, through the storm?
So I have a private Facebook group, and so I share quite a bit through that private Facebook group in terms of education, ideas, resources, connections, and then I teach at least once a week. Most of the time, 3 times a week, I'm doing some type of presentation, giving them an opportunity to come and learn because knowledge is power. And so if I can share and increase their knowledge, then they have the ability to feel more empowered to go talk to more people. And I challenge them to be leaders in our community. And you can't be a leader in a community if you're not being, if you don't have the resources and connections to share with people and the knowledge. So I just want to make sure that I'm arming them with all of those things. And then just
Yeah.
helping them from a creative marketing standpoint. From even a neuroscience, this. If they're in that panic mode and they're in that fight or flight mode, they can't be creative. So what can I do that helps them get into that creative space so we can really problem solve versus just panic over what's going on and what we're going to do about it.
Well, one thing, so a buddy of mine is Alec. He's actually helping with the cameras behind here. And Alex said once that if you can teach your client how to make $1,000, they'll pay you that $1,000.
Mhm,
And I took that and I said, that's really great for a digital marketer.
mhm,
As a loan officer, if you can teach your realtor or your referral partner how to
mhm,
pull a client out of their database, they'll refer you that database.
mhm,
They'll refer you that client. And the
mhm,
mindset behind it is, for loan officers for generations, that has always been, hey, can I have a deal? Can I have a deal? I'll do a great job. And where I see like the top LOs really succeeding through this
mhm,
is that they've built vehicles. Like mine is our post closing process or client concierge process.
mhm,
built vehicles that help generate referrals for our realtor partners.
Mhm.
And notice I said referrals, not leads.
Mhm.
And but for you, as you've gone through this, or do you have a vehicle that helps generate referrals or leads for your realtors?
So I use HomeBot, and I use that as my trigger point to have the conversations, not just in the reach outs, but whenever I'm doing their anniversary reviews is when I tie all of that together. And that to me, that has, now I want to learn more about your system, but staying in contact with my customers through HomeBot, a birthday program and anniversaries, allows me to help them stay in contact with the realtors. Now, as far as expanding out like you've done, where you've really 10x that whole process, no, I have not. And I'm hoping to learn from you on that.
Happy to share everything and anything.
Mhm.
Um, but I think also what I like about what you're saying there is you see a technology, HomeBot, you
Mhm.
see the ability and the firepower that it can do. Instead of you just doing it for you,
Mhm.
you're doing it also for your referral partners.
Mhm.
And that's brilliant. And when I realized that and I learned that, I think I started doing like in 2019. You realize this, if I can do this for realtors, well, who else struggles staying in a relationship with their clients?
Right.
CPAs, financial advisors, family will attorneys,
Mhm.
insurance agents. And
Mhm.
people ask me all the time, like, how on God's green earth, how many people do you have in your HomeBot database? I'm like, 28,000. He
Mhm.
goes, how do you have 28,000 in there?
Mhm.
Well, mine are really 3,000. The other 25,000 equate to the 76 financial advisors, the 14 CPAs, the 3 family will attorneys, the 6 insurances, and then also my realtor database, all 11 mega agents that I work with.
Mhm.
And the ability to be able to, well, hey, if it's their database in your home bot, like, then it's not really your database. I said, yeah, you can call it that way, but once a month, it's me and the CPA doing a video together that goes out bomb directly to their database.
Mhm.
It's me and the financial advisor once a month that a video goes out to their database. Me and an insurance agent, me and the family will attorneys going out to their database. And when we have these filming days, I'm sharing what's going on in the interest rates. I'm sharing what's going on in the market. The
Mhm.
CPAs sharing what's going on in Congress and different tax strategies and different success story. The
Mhm.
financial advisor is talking about other, annuities or life insurance or, any kind of investment vehicles. And there's many topics, but when they see me with the credible source and they get my HomeBot digest that comes through, start adopting and you start engaging with this database.
Mhm.
And on top of that, when we do yearly client appreciation events together, that 28,000 households becomes my much warmer database than before. And I just think I love what you're doing, especially with HomeBot, and you're building that out where, most loan officers unfortunately would see a cool technology like that. Wow, that's really cool. And they just don't implement.
I'm taking notes here because what a great way to show people how to run their business like a business
Yeah.
in terms of staying in touch with their clients. Because you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. Most professionals aren't staying in touch with their clients. They're just not doing it. And I
Yeah.
know I, I wasn't good at it up
Mm.
until 7 years ago. I got in the business in 96. And I think about how many missed opportunities I had for myself and asking for referrals for my business partners because I didn't keep up with the CRM. I had an Excel spreadsheet that I would keep up with, but I would lose it over time.
Yeah.
And, I did not, and I still only used an Excel spreadsheet till about 6 years ago, whenever I started working a CRM. And then HomeBot for me is I've only been using it for 2 years. So even before that, all I had was the drip campaigns. Now, of course, I do the customs and, I do so much more to stay in touch with people.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of professions where CRMs are just not normal course of business. And even if it were, people don't work it like they could be, and they're missing opportunities.
Well, I think, one of the questions I get asked most often is how do you adopt a CPA's database or a financial advisor's database?
Yes,
And it's,
because they're typically very secure with that information. Like how do you get them to be okay with giving you that information?
yeah, insurance agents will just email it over you in Excel format. So it's
Mm,
super duper easy.
mhm,
Family will attorneys are opt in type of people.
mhm,
CPAs will just send you over their Excel sheet but also financial advisors are more opt in. So the way I started off is really simply that I say, okay, hey, from 2019, I was doing $100 million in loans, but only 3% of my business came from my past clients.
mhm,
3%, not
mhm,
impressive.
mhm,
$100 million is impressive in 2019, especially where the market was, but only 3% of the business came from past clients, and 0% of the business came from wealth partners.
mhm,
And I said, I realized like, okay, I got to this pinnacle of mortgage. Getting $100 million in a year is like the pinnacle of mortgage,
mhm,
but like I felt empty. Making $1 million in a year was great now, but I felt empty. I felt like there was so much more you can do. And then you realize, okay, well, back then my database was about 2,000 past clients. I'm like, well, I can't really add to that, or
mhm,
can I?
mhm,
And when I created that client concierge process from doing the 7-day call, the 30-day call, the 6-month call, the
mhm,
mortgage efficiency checkup call, I love
mhm,
how you called yours the anniversary review, brilliant. But when I created that and I started getting some success with it, and I started referring out.
mhm,
So that first year, I referred out over $250,000 in commissions. That accelerates. In last year alone, we referred out over $2 million in commissions.
mhm,
$2 million in commissions referred out. But the whole point of that is when I start referring these clients to my CPAs or my financial advisors, I'm like, oh my God, it was super cool, Mr. CPA, was I was talking to one of my past clients. I was doing the mortgage efficiency checkup. I found like they really need a tax strategist, not a CPA. So that's why I'm referring them to you. Do you do annual reviews with your clients also? What do they look like?
mhm.
And one of my favorite questions to ask a CPA, financial advisor, whoever, is throughout the year, do you ever struggle thinking of creative ways to add value to your clients? 10 out of 10 times, the answer is yes. I'm always having to think about what reason to call. I want to call and I want to stay in a relationship, but I'm
Mhm,
having to think of creative ways to reach out and call.
mhm,
And I said, so let's just say it's a financial advisor. So you do an annual financial review. Yes, I do. Okay. So the question I've got is, so you're helping them grow their wealth. Who's helping them manage their debt?
mhm, mhm,
And what's great about that is like, what do you mean by that? Well, if you can do a great job at about helping a client to grow their wealth, but their mortgage is being run inefficiently, meaning like they've got monthly mortgage insurance still on the mortgage.
yeah,
Their taxes, they have still filed homestead exemption and the taxes have gone up. They haven't shopped around home insurance. They've been in the house 7 years and now insurance is double. So their escrow account is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
mhm,
And now the mortgage is running inefficiently, but it's cool that they got a 3% rate, but
mhm,
there's just so much more that you can do to make it run more efficient.
mhm,
So as I'm having these conversations, they're seeing the opportunities of gaps. And I
mhm.
said, instead of me showing you what I do in a instead of me telling you what I do in a mortgage efficiency checkup, you have a mortgage, don't you? The answer is always yes. Okay.
Oh,
Here's
yeah.
what I want you to do. Send me over a copy of your most recent mortgage statement. No,
Mhm.
Wally, no. My rate's like at 2.5%. You won't be able to refinance me. I don't remember saying anything about refinancing you.
That was an
I,
assumption.
yeah. I don't care if the rate's 1.5%. It doesn't matter to me. The rate's not the important thing.
Mhm,
The how efficiently the mortgage is running, because how efficiently the mortgage is running determines how much equity you're able to walk away with when you go sell a house.
mhm,
You've got two options: you walking away with more equity when you go sell your home, or the
mhm.
bank walking away with more interest that they charged you because it wasn't running efficiently. Your call.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd rather walk away with the equity. So I get them to send me over their mortgage statement. And when I get the mortgage statement, I'm creating a TCA for them as if I was their loan officer when they bought the house. Then I'm also creating a home bot
Mhm,
and the digest. And I
mhm,
and I just jump on the phone and I call and I do a mortgage efficiency checkup with them. And I said by the end of the call, I'm like, so do you see the value I can bring to your clients?
mhm, mhm,
What I've also learned, especially with financial advisors or any fields, instead of saying, well, hey, refer me your client, my question is always, when you do an annual financial review with your clients, are there updated documents you request? I know the answer. The answer is yes. Well, how often do you request the documents before you meet with them? And the answer is usually around 30, 45 days before. All right, I want you to pivot and do one more thing for me. Request their most recent mortgage statement when
Mm-hmm.
you do your annual financial review with them,
Mm-hmm.
30, 45 days before. Email it over me. I'll put together a TCA and record a video. I'll put
Mm-hmm.
together a HomeBot digest and also record a video through there. I'll
Right.
send everything via email. When you meet with them to do the annual financial review, just play both those videos. And if
Mm-hmm.
they see value, this is how you opt in.
Mm-hmm.
That's been so easy because it takes me what, I don't even do it. My team does it for me, but it takes me what, 10 minutes to do a
Yeah,
TCA.
20 minutes to do it
And
all. Yeah.
and it takes, yeah, like 5 minutes tops to input it into HomeBot and get the
Mm-hmm.
digest together. And say if I take 2 minutes to record a video,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's the financial advisor playing it in front of them with their credibility, with them as the annual financial review, and then I'm getting a referral. And I'm getting a referral.
Yep.
It's been such an automatic referral maker, and they're doing the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I planted the seed, they watered it and built it to a tree.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then you're allowing tech to water that seed. I mean, it's the familiarity. They see your face over and over. You become the expert.
Yeah, exactly. And their loan officer did the mortgage, never followed up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's taking candy from a baby for sure.
Well, and it just, those annual reviews are just such a good time to build rapport, to remind them that you're human and that you're not out to make money on them today. You're just there to protect the money that they're
Mhm.
spending.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, since we service our loans, it's a little bit easier because
Yeah.
I mean, not it's easier for than someone who doesn't work for a loan servicer. But
Yeah.
I can look at their escrow account and I can see if there's any shortages in their escrow account. Go ahead and address the shortages and talk to them about the upcoming tax bill and how that might affect their escrow account or even offset maybe the shortage. And then
Yeah.
talk about their insurance and go. I mean, it's just such an easy conversation when you have HomeBot. You can go back in and build out a TCA and review that. And then you've got the screens, so that you can. It's just such a great conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna
Y-
just took all kind of notes. So thank you. I've been wanting to get on your calendar to find out exactly how you're doing this. Now I've got a game plan.
Well, there's a 1 hour webinar that I'm doing for this on the 26th
Uh-huh.
of this month.
Okay.
So I'm sure you'll see it on social, but I mean, come join the webinar and I'll walk through what I do on a 7-day call, what I do on a 30-day call, what I do on a 6-month call, what I do on the mortgage efficiency checkup. How do I adopt databases? How do I go after wealth partners? So it's completely free. But it'll just, yeah, come learn. But if
It's
you
that
hear something you have questions,
abundance mindset where you're willing to share. I love it.
well, it's just, man, I can't, I don't know if you experience as much with your coaching platform or not, but there's a monstrous amount of loan officers out there struggling right now. And
Oh,
it candidly just breaks my heart.
yeah.
And my biggest passion, my biggest goal is like, I thought I made a mistake. The book, I started writing the book and started launching it end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is called 24/7 Mindset: How to Build a Business That Pays You 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But then you only have to work in it 24 hours a week, 7 months a year. And I remember being at the Modern Mortgage Summit and Shayla Gifford, which I absolutely just a phenomenal person at your company.
Mm-hmm.
She was up there speaking. Her speech was so motivational about you've got to do open houses, you got to grind, you got to hustle, you got this. And I'm like, I got to change my speech. I'm about to get on the stage and tell everybody like, you take vacations in this different world. And
But
I
that's
thought I was,
contrast.
yeah, but I thought I was making a mistake. As I've learned throughout the rest of this year, what I learned is how to run business differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never focused on trying to be better than anyone else. I
Right.
identified where there's gaps in our industry and gaps in other wealth partners' industries and their businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and used my talents or skills how to fill those gaps. And it's paid and done really well production wise and lifestyle wise, which affords me the ability to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year.
See, and I think, Wally, that that is a great example of how in this industry you can do it so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I tend to there's comfort in movement, right? I mean, if you're nervous, you're swaying, you're fidgeting. There's just like when you're nervous, you're moving.
Yeah.
But if you're more intentional about this is how I do business and this is what works for me, then yes, you can get distracted by all of these different ideas and different ways of doing business. But at the end of the day, back to your original question, I think that you got to understand who you are, what your values are, and create a life and a business that truly feels right for you, something you are truly fired up and passionate about.
Yeah.
And for you, you've done that. And it doesn't matter if you can get it done in 24 hours, good for you. So if it for someone else, like for me, I just like teaching. I like spreading knowledge and information and empowering people to make decisions. And so I've chosen to do it a different way. And I do have a tendency sometimes to get distracted with other ways of doing it. But then I have to go back to who am I? What really makes me passionate, not anxious about this business? And how do I deliver that experience to other people and make sure that it's aligned with my values too? And when you do that, then the energy that you feel from that is just so automatic. It's so natural that you don't have to talk yourself into going to work. And so for
Yeah.
me, I mean, if that meant that I needed to teach 3 classes in one day, if it's something I truly enjoy and I love to do, it won't feel like work to me.
Yeah. 100%.
So I mean, I think that this business and any business can be done however you want to do it. You just got to choose what's good for you and how it works for you. And then learn different ideas and figure out, like what I learned from you. Now, how can I go and deliver and I can do a better job at what I'm already doing? Because I prefer to do business with people I've already done business with. They already
Yeah.
like me, they trust me, they believe in me, and so how do I do more business with them? So
Absolutely. So, all right, we're coming up the last
coming
two,
up.
three, coming
Mhm.
up last 2, 3 minutes here. I want to give you some closing thoughts.
Mm.
What was that about?
Because I was about to
Um,
drink a cup of, I was to get about to take a sip, but now I need to think. Okay, closing thought.
well, no, I just say, you're an innovator, and there's a lot of great people on here that are looking for direction.
Mhm.
So if you're a lot of loan officers out there and you want to work smarter, not harder, you want to be different, you want to have a personality like Michelle or a personality like whatever you want it to be,
Mhm.
what would you, as an innovator in our space, what would your advice be if for a loan officer that's trying to thrive right now in this marketplace versus just survive?
Um, I really firmly believe in the law of attraction. And I don't want to say that as a catchphrase. I just want to begin with that law of attraction. So hold that thought for a minute. Um, Getting clear about who do I work well with? Like who is my ideal client or who is my
Yeah.
ideal partner? And really understanding what are their struggles right now. And if that means that you need to pick up the phone and go deeper and ask more questions, really find out what's on their mind, what's their biggest struggle, what's their biggest hurdle, and helping them make whatever move it is or decision it is that they need to make. And figure out how to, when you understand who your ideal client is, how do you build a business around that? And then crafting an authentic message that is true to who you are and continue to repeat that same message over and over and over, whether it be social, whether it be through your videos to your database and telling your customers, these are my ideal client, these are people I work well with. If you hear anybody that is just totally confused whether they should sell their house right now, they need their equity, they want their equity, but they're scared about making that decision to make the next purchase, I want to talk to them and have that conversation. Just getting really clear about who it is that you want to work with, what their struggles are, what solutions you offer, where you're going to find more of them and how you're going to message to them. And that's the
Uh,
law of attraction. That's the part of
yeah,
it. And I think you attract more of that when you are really true in your passion and your message for those
yeah,
people.
absolutely brilliant. And the biggest thing is, I think there's so many people that are attracted to you because of what you just said. So if they want to continue a relationship with you after this podcast show, how do they get a hold of you? How can they get into your ecosystem?
One of the, if really you want to learn more about who am I and have more clarity for who you are, and that bleeds over to how you're going to do business. When you get real clear with who you are as a human, as a person,
Yeah,
and how you want to experience life, the best way to really connect and be in my ecosystem from that standpoint is just send a request to join Living Lit. It's a private Facebook group that I have created where it's just a safe place to really figure out, how do I want to experience life and how do I get more clarity about that? Because it, like I said, when you find that and you get good with that, the business part of it is so much easier. So
yeah,
Living Lit Facebook group is probably the best place to get into that ecosystem, and then connect with me on Facebook. Send me a message on Messenger.
that's awesome. I think you'll, from what I've seen, I mean, I think you've got a phenomenal presence online, and I love one of my favorite posts that you do. It's like a series of posts that you do. It's like you've got a quote that is on like a sheet of paper or something,
Mhm,
and that
mhm,
you do. So
mhm.
it's always inspirational, always positive, and I just love all the color and um, it's funny. It's and I guess my closing thoughts is some of the best advice I ever got was don't be afraid to color outside the lines.
That's exactly
And
right.
when I look at you and I see you and I think of Michelle Castle, that's exactly what I think of. Somebody that is totally comfortable and always excited to color outside the lines. And
Mm,
it's definitely always been really inspirational. So
mm.
thank you for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome, Michelle. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super duper busy, but we all really appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Thanks.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.